Okay, are we good to go?
Almost,
Okay.
almost there. YouTube is loading is what he says.
Okay.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, I'll call the September 28th, 2020 school board work session to order. It's 5:33 p.m. So with that, we can get started here.
So I think in this work session, there's kind of three things that we're going to take a look at. The first would be kind of your board and superintendent working agreements. The second would be the board goals and where you want to go with that. And then the last is I can give you kind of a draft of the superintendent goals that I'm looking at, take feedback, and we still have plenty of time to make some changes. So those are kind of the three things that we have out in front of us. Do you want me to, I can take and share out the documents so everybody can be seeing them. Does that work, Mark?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine, Dave. Thanks.
Okay. So this is your, just a sec, I need to get all of you back, I lost it. So this is kind of the board and superintendent working agreements that we had last year. And now for you guys to kind of structure a conversation around, do we like this? Are there things that we need to have change?
Okay. I did look at it, and I don't know. I was just trying to think of issues that, areas that we might need to address, and I couldn't come up with any. I don't know if other board members have any, questions or comments or about that. Maybe they saw different things.
I reviewed it, but I didn't see any new additions when I reviewed it. It looked fine to me.
Yeah, I agree. When I looked at it, nothing jumped out at me that we needed to change or adjust. And I couldn't think of anything we might want to add.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's still a pretty good working document for us.
Norstay, did you have any comments, or your first year on the board? So is there anything that you think we might need to address, or?
I reviewed it prior to the meeting, and it looks good to me.
Okay. 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 I think with that, I think we'll probably just continue these.
Well, one second, Mark. Dave, did you have anything?
No, actually, this document, I think, still works pretty well. I think it describes our relationship pretty well. We'll change the date on it, and then I think we'll bring it back in another time for ratification. I think is that the correct process, Kathy?
Yeah, we can, if it's okay, we can bring it for action.
Okay.
No, I feel good about this document and kind of the way it's laying out. I mean, I think it's done well for the last 2 years. I don't see any out-of-date things in it. Okay, so I'll move it on to the next one. These are the board goals for last year. Changes that folks are thinking about these.
The one that I had in the packet was from 2018 to 2019. So
Hmm.
So, and I can't read number 3 on here. So, it was, the board will encourage partnership that support the district. And I thought we changed that in 2019-20. Could you read those 3 for me? I can't read them on the computer.
Absolutely. The board will encourage partnerships that support the district. The first bullet is board members will participate in presentations to civic groups about district initiatives. Board members may serve on the City of Forest Grove's committees as requested. And board chair will participate in the community leaders luncheon.
Okay. I thought we had changed it last year, and okay, that's perfect, because I was sure we had changed it. I don't have any things to add to that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good to me as well.
I liked the advocating for adequate and stable funding for K-12 schools. While a lot of work has been done, there's still could be quite a bit of work needed in the spring. And so I think that's still a very good goal for us.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. I mean, I think it's, I can't think of anything to add or take off of it.
The only thing I have, and it's just something to think about, on bullet number 5, the board will model our district culture of collaboration, continuous learning, and developing cultural competency. I'm wondering if you would be open to adding to cultural competency humility, because competency is something you do once, you check the box, it's done. But it's actually the humility, it's everyday work. And I really believe that our teachers and others are doing that. So it's a suggestion.
Okay. So say that again, Narce, that the humility is.
So it's cultural competency and humility. The humility is the everyday work. The
Okay.
cultural competency, the way that it comes across, I went to a workshop and I'm done with my cultural competency. It's done.
Oh.
So I don't have to do it anymore because I'm done with it. Where the humility actually adds the commitment to having that be continuous work.
Okay. Okay.
I would be
I'd
good
be
with that.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
I like-
That's good.
Okay. I think,
Great idea, Narce.
yeah, that's a good.
I do this every day, so it's
Yeah. This is probably pretty easy for you to add this. So yeah, I like that. So if everybody's okay with that, we can add that and then come back with it next time.
I think we eliminated the other. I've got in my notes, there was a reference to OLN, Oregon Leadership Network, but I think that was, we had removed that last year.
Okay. I would just say, I don't know that last year I participated in the community leaders luncheon, and I'm happy to do that. Maybe I missed it, so I don't want to have it on there and not do it. So
We
you know.
haven't had those scheduled for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I did it once, and when I went, it was the first time it had been done in years. I think it's
Okay.
really hard to get all those people together
Well,
and get their
especially-
schedules coordinated.
Okay, yeah.
But
Okay.
But Dave is trying his hardest.
Yeah. No, we might not be doing that this year either, but I guess we just, I just wanted to note that I hadn't gone. Okay. Looks good.
Okay.
Dave, did you want to suggest you were going to talk about the SIA goal too of underserved students. Did you want to add
Oh
that?
yeah, that was the one thing I was wondering about here, which is you'll see in my goals, I've definitely got there's a goal around beginning to enacting systemic change to begin to address our historically underserved populations. And I wondered if that wasn't a goal that we would want to add into your board goals here. We've got we've got various needs here, but it just feels like beginning to make a statement about this would be an important one. And again, we can draft up some language and bring it back to you to look at it the next one, but wanted to kind of talk through that before I jumped into it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll draft up, it'll be in my goals too, you'll see coming up next, but I'll go through and we'll draft up some language and you guys can mark it up at the next meeting and then we'll figure out kind of how to go about that.
Dave, is it part of the strategic plan? Is it in the strategic plan too, that goal?
It definitely will be built into that plan. It sits under my goals, but then you'll see what I'm doing with that coming up here, where the strategic plan is one of my goals. So I've got it built into that strategic plan too.
So I'm just going to suggest maybe it makes sense then to put it under number 1 as a bullet point. The board will work to reduce class sizes, and maybe another bullet point under, right? Yeah, either here under strategic plan. So it's not a separate goal, but it's part of the strategic plan. So it's all lined up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't address
Prior to me coming to the board, I remember, having conversations with some of you about the strategic plan for the district.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I picked up is that you all really added an equity lens to it. So do you want to add that to say the board will support the work of the strategic plan with an equity lens? Because you all did that prior, and this is just embedded in there and it's an understanding. So
do you want to list that as a bullet, or do you want to build it in the board will support the work of the strategic plan utilizing an equity lens?
it's a suggestion that I have just based on prior to me coming as a board member. I looked at the strategic plan and it seemed like it was all embedded. So when you add with the inequity plan, it's like an add-on, but I just want to point out that it seemed like it was embedded.
Is it more than, are you suggesting more than the number 5 goal, Narcy? Is it different?
It is a little bit different. We have developed kind of an equity lens to begin to analyze decisions through. And we haven't talked about it as much on the board, but it is something that there's some work to be done here around looking at the data on these decisions and also trying to look at it with this equity lens. It's a set of 4 questions that we're asking.
Well, maybe then, because I think that's what I sensed in particular my first year was, actually it's in bullet 3, the board will expect the district to apply an equity lens to policy. Oh, so it's already there. Yeah, it's already there, but I think the part that I experienced and I was very impressed by was the data driven. So I don't know how to put that in there, but the board will expect the district to apply an equity lens, maybe prior to policy development, equity lens by being data driven to implement policy development or something like that. I think just capturing the data analysis, because I know that John O'Neill came to us quite often with data that we were asking for.
Narcy, where's that bullet again?
It's number one, the
Bullet.
board, it's bullet number one, and it's the one that's being highlighted in yellow right now.
Got it.
I'm just trying to
So-
capture data driven, unless the data driven is somewhere else that I missed it.
Mhm.
Because I know, Brad, you asked a lot about data, and so did I.
I think it's in the strategic plan. It's just not on these, in this
This particular,
bulleted in this document.
okay. I'm okay with either. I just wanted to give kudos to that.
Mhm.
Maybe I do a little bit of work with this. The board will expect the district to apply an equity lens to policy development. Maybe I just do a little bit of work with that sentence to, we'll use data to, apply an equity lens to the policy development, which is the work of the board. Something to that extent.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll make a couple of notes there and we can get that.
Well, it's not just with the equity lens, it's actually with everything that I've seen. That's been my experience.
We used to have something in there about data-driven decision-making.
It's not still there in the strategic plan.
It is in the strategic plan. It's just not in the board goals.
I think what Narci's talking about is maybe a bullet referring to data-driven decisions.
Correct.
It kind of lines up with the strategic plan. Is that what you're talking about, Narci?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Brad. Yeah.
So I think, I mean, I agree. Maybe we put a bullet in here that mention, that addresses that. I think the strategic plan's pretty encompassing in terms of using data and all of those things, but this would bring, at least even for board members and for the public, the notion that those are the areas that we're, I guess, really focused in on in terms of the strategic plan, because it's so big, right? But
I guess the other point is that when we bring something, Dave, when you bring something to the board, a lot of the questions have been over the, first part of this year is, what's the data telling us? How do we quantify that? And I think it makes sense to have, I like that idea, Narci. I think it makes sense to have it as some type of bullet in here that makes it important for the board to at least use that as a lens when we're making decisions.
Yeah. We'll craft something up there. I may give a couple of phone calls out to folks as we're doing this, just to make sure we capture the right, we capture this thinking correctly. Other board goals that you guys are thinking about?
no, none for me.
Okie doke. I'm gonna switch over now to the draft of my, let's see. I will share this with all of you, and then I'll also put it on the screen. So if you, hang on one sec, Lila. Kate. Okay, so I just shared this document with you. So if it's easier for you just to look, and then I'm gonna push it up on the screen. Let me make it larger. So here's kind of what I was thinking of as far as my goals this year. as I'm thinking about what is the work that I need to do as a superintendent this year? What are the big things that need to get done? The first thing that comes to mind is I've got to navigate our district from our current status of comprehensive distance learning into a hybrid model, and then hopefully into in-school, like all students back in school. And so my first goal here that I'm thinking about is I've got to lay out that process. And if I do that process well, then our district's going to be successful this year. So that was the first kind of idea that I had around the first goal that you would seem important. And then I'll come back to the details here. But the second goal is really this update and implement the strategic plan. In the previous years, I had kind of smaller pieces here, but really what you need is for me to take our strategic plan and implement this well, and then provide you feedback on how that's going. Our issue is that the strategic plan is kind of outdated at this point, where as soon as the pandemic hit, things have kind of changed. And so I need to reconvene some folks, and some of it is still right on target, but other things need to get pushed off while we're dealing with comprehensive distance learning. But I still think this is the major goal, is we do need to figure out what part of the strategic plan we are going to achieve and then get us moving forward achieving it. So that was kind of the big number 2, which is update and implement the strategic plan. And then number 3 here is really the piece that I think is the enact systemic change for our historically marginalized students. We have some ideas about how we want to start going about that. We've got things already running in the district that we've been working on, but I'm going back through now and figuring out exactly what that's going to look like. So for me, those are the 3 large goals that I have out in front of me, which is 1, get us to in-person schooling, implement that strategic plan, and then 3, we've got to start enacting change, successful change for our students who aren't doing well in our district. So before I get to the details, for me, those were the 3 big things that I felt like if I accomplished those things, we would be well down the road of doing well. Now, what I would say now would be, am I missing something? Is there a big rock out there that I should be working on? I mean, there's lots of operations, and we've got long range planning. I mean, there's tons of other things going on, but these are the 3 big ones that feels like I need to accomplish. And I would open it up to, like, is there something, and I'll hit the details next, but those big rocks, so is there something I'm missing?
Dave, what were the first 2? Can I see them really quick?
Update and implement the strategic plan. And then 1 was develop and implement plans moving the district from CDL to hybrid, and then returning the school district to in-person instruction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I would just say those, I mean, those are the things you're going to be working on this year.
Yeah.
Number 1 is going to be, I mean, you're going to be working on that, all year, and the strategic plan, and then the historically marginalized, the working on that as well. So, I mean, I think that lines up with the SIA funds, right, Dave?
Yep.
And so those are what we're tasked to do this year, so.
Dave, when you're talking about the metrics and the timing for transitioning, have you started that? I mean, is that something you've started having discussions around?
So when we transitioned from the hybrid to CDL at the end of July, we've been pretty much hammering on just getting school open. So I'll be reconvening a group here in the next week and a half to begin to start talking through some of the intricacies of the metrics. We've got a lot of the planning of the hybrid, like what's the structure and the different levels. And so there's a lot of that work that we did in July that will transfer, but we really have to start talking about timelines and some of those pieces, which is why I'll reconvene kind of that district blueprint committee we'll expand it actually, because I have to get all the principals. We need representation of the principals when we start talking about the metrics and the timelines. But we're about to kick that up. Most of the other districts in Washington County are kind of on that same basic timeline as they're reconvening these hybrid committees and getting ready to start talking about all of that.
I guess my question also would be, how are we evaluating how effective we are with kids at this point right now? I know I know you gear up for school and you get things started, but at some point I would think that we would have an idea that some type of measurement or data that we'd be able to quantify where we are right now with kids. And one would be access, obviously, but academic achievement. Is there a plan for evaluating when parents come up to us and ask us how well things going? I mean, those are the types of questions we're going to get in terms of how the online learning go, and was it successful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So the couple things. One is we can definitely measure access because we know which kids we're still having to provide hotspots to, or even problem solving further when they live in a space where the hotspots don't work. So we can get back to you some information around access. I can get some information around attendance because that's another piece that we know. The issue of grades and such, we will know. We are assessing work now. We're going to have one of the things that we use is, again, the performance on our either our internal assessments or our state assessments, and we won't have that data this time around. We may have some IAP, but I'm not exactly sure right now. I'll have to get back to you on like when we're planning on actually giving some of those assessments. That's going to be a little more challenging, but we will have grade data, that kind of thing that we can lay out.
One of the things
along the same.
Go ahead. No.
Sorry, go. along the same lines, how are we like keeping the teachers and the admin accountable for showing up to their classes? Like, I've gotten that question because there's been some classes where the teachers canceled multiple days in a row, saying that they don't have good Wi-Fi. But I didn't really know what to say. I told them obviously that they should call the school and let them know what's going on. But also I was thinking, my understanding was if you didn't have a good Wi-Fi connection, then you should go into the school and use theirs. And so I'm also like, what were you doing those 2 weeks of training if you didn't have Wi-Fi then? And I just feel like we want our kids to show up, and we're taking attendance on them. How are we making sure the teachers are showing up?
So again, all of our people show up every day to work. If you're not showing up to work and you don't have a class, I mean, if you're canceling your class, and our administrators are working through that situation. I know of one or two situations where there's some internet, and again, our response to our folks is come into the building and use it. So I'm going to need to get back with you because, again, our people are coming to work every day, and if they're not, then their bosses, their supervisors are talking to them about that. There isn't like folks who are not doing their job. So I will check into that and get back to you and maybe you and I can talk offline on point me in the right direction here, and I'll go figure out what's going on.
All right, thanks. Yeah, it's just like, you probably need to call the school and let them know. That's always your first step. But then if I was thinking, if I get this again, if any of us get that question, it would be nice to know how to answer it. So how would you direct us to answer that?
It's the same thing now, which is if you're gone, then you sign it. I mean, you put in for a substitute. We're still working out all the substitute, but each employee, if you're gone, goes into a system, it records it as being gone and use leave, or you don't lose leave. So all of that gets recorded. I mean, there's not.
So we do have substitutes?
Yes and no. We're working through that situation right now, but the way you record your absence doesn't change.
Right.
So it would be recorded at the district level. And
absolutely.
So Dave, one of the things, I guess maybe, just this conversation, just what I'm kind of hearing is what you have here is, we're in the CDL, and we're going to go to hybrid hopefully at some point, and then we're going to go on hopefully to in-person instruction, which would probably be maybe the easiest transition of all right there. But
right.
But one of the things maybe to try and maybe to think about putting into this goal, I don't know if it's a bullet point or if it's a separate, but how we're evaluating how we're doing on CDL.
Yep.
Maybe it sounds like that's kind of what, and I have interest in that as well. How are we doing on the CDL, and how do we know? We've all agreed that CDL has to be really good going forward. It has to be, we have to do a good job with that. And how do we know we're doing a good job, and how do we know that the kids are learning? So maybe something around that, which, could be a goal that might end in January or February because we left CDL and we've gone on to something else. I don't know.
But I think it could transfer really easy. I mean, you're going to want to know the same thing as how are we doing hybrid, right? So that makes some sense to me, that we write in a goal basically with some specifics on what are the measures that you guys want to see as far as how are we doing. Yep.
I agree. I guess I view this as a classroom, and I we do a lot of talking about teachers and the nuts and the bolts, but I would really want to know how the kids are doing, and if they're making progress.
I'm just writing a note.
It would also be nice to know, like, if the different grade levels, how the kids are doing, depending if they're elementary or Tom McCall or the high school or whatever.
Another measurement, Dave, I was thinking about too, is just listening to the parents talk would be, and teachers talking too, is how much instruction time are kids getting at those different levels? That was one of the things that I know last year was there was concern about the number of minutes, but I mean, I would want to know the number of how much instruction time are each student getting at those particular levels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're going to get some of that tonight in the changes between last year and this year. But again, these are all good ideas. Let me see if I can craft something up. Other kind of indications that I've got access, attendance. We've got some sort of measure of academic. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like yet. What's that measure? And then there's this making student progress by grade level, which is similar to the academic. But anything else there? Those are great ideas.
For me.
I don't know. Is there a way to evaluate their mental and social health and how they're dealing right now with that?
So we may be able to do that as part of the MTSS effort that we're starting. There will be some kind of social emotional surveying that's going on, but it'll be limited in scope because they're starting it at one school. So we may only be able to get kind of, but I think we can probably work something in there. So let me see.
Thanks.
Dave, what about a parent survey? Have you thought about that? Get feedback from the parents of how they feel about how things are going.
Yeah, I like that idea because we're going to have some limited. Normally, we would take some other some other assessment points, some other data from assessments, and we're not going to have that this year. So the parent survey may be a great place for us to get feedback, because it's going to be a little harder through some other areas.
I would go as far as maybe even to ask the high school students how they're feeling about the online experience too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. On the strategic plan, which is number 2, the base sets of goals that we're kind of laying out there. There's a bunch of, some of the work that we've done still fits just fine, but it needs to get pushed back. And so that's why I need to kind of reconvene, and we need to kind of repick some of these the actual detailed tasks that we're working on this year need to get relooked at. So I'll also start sitting down with some folks over the next 4 weeks to do some of that work. I'll come back, present kind of this evolved strategic plan for the board for comments and the rest, and then we'll get leaders assigned off to them and get working, and then we'll report back on 12-week intervals, 3-month intervals on where we're going with the strategic plan.
Dave, you sent this to us?
Yes, yeah.
Right, thank you.
And then the last one is kind of the systemic change piece, and we've been working on this. We have a district equity team. Each school has their own school-wide equity team. The first piece for me is really to make sure that all educators have an understanding of the role we play in systemic racism, and our equity teams will be meeting in the coming weeks here, and then they're continuing to push out some of the work that we did with Dr. Freiberg and her team. I want to kind of convene a team to begin to look at some of the systemic underperformance and put forth suggestions and systems that we need to change to begin to start making some impact. There's probably some resourcing that we need to look at and figure out how we can begin to do some of this. We've got SIA dollars that can begin to help with this. So we have some opportunity to make some changes here. I have some thoughts about it, but I want to make sure we involve people in kind of that work. And then we've got kind of the work the district equity teams have. Each school's team meets with them monthly to kind of continue to educate around identity, safety, interpretive power, how the culture cycle can help us, can be leveraged for systemic change. We'll continue that work. And then the big piece is creating a behavioral health and wellness framework that supports every student. We're already way into this, and I'll have Cassie and Kim come in and I think this month to talk about all the work, but there's a lot of behavioral health and wellness work going on, and for both students, for our staff, for our parents, there's a lot kind of beginning to really kick up from even from the initial investments we have in the student investment account.
I think that might be a piece that addresses Val's question.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And those are kind of the details underneath this first little bit of enacting systemic change. To be honest, this number 1, which is ensure all educators have an understanding of this, that's really the biggest thing right now. Before we can take action, we need everyone kind of lining up and heading in the same direction. I shared this with you, so feel free to put any comments you want. We'll start, Kathy and I, the evidence column you'll see is empty right now. We'll start populating the evidence piece. I'll add in the conversations that you had, that you already had with me around evaluating how we're doing in CDL and hybrid, and then make any comments you want to it.
Okay. Okay, maybe this is a question for Kathy, but the timeline on, maybe you can remind us the timeline on on this, Dave? You know?
We'll make some changes after you've had time to really look at it.
Uh-huh.
And then we can bring it back as a future action item and have some more discussion, or we can bring it back as action. It's up to you guys. I have it down for future action and then approving at the end of October, but whatever works best for, I mean, if you guys figure it out and get what you need, we can approve it on October 12th if we want to.
Okay, so Dave, so just to summarize, you would add the bits maybe that we've talked about and
Yep.
send it to us. For me, I think it would make sense to just have a look at it again at our next board meeting and then adopt after that. So that we can have a conversation at that time about it if we needed to at the next board meeting. I don't know how others feel.
My only comment is, I've been through a couple of these, and it just seems like it's a lot, Dave, for a year like you're going to have this year. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to prioritize Pete's, maybe just prioritize the highlighted ones that you want are the most important for us. And then, so when we get down to the end and say, well, we didn't get to 5, 6, 7, there'll be a good reason why, because 1, 2, 3 were at the top of the list for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is just going to be work in progress.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to say that because it's never done.
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to prioritize it because again, the number one, the first goal may end up consuming the whole strategic plan. That may be my whole year is just working on 1 and 3. 3's work that we've already started, we're already working on. So it's just going to continue, but I like that idea. I'll try and kind of put the higher priority pieces at the top and then kind of go down from there.
Okay.
I guess my other comment, Dave, is what I'm going to, for me, I'll just ask you, how are you going to determine success? How are you going to quantify whether you're successful with that particular goal? And so under evidence, if there's a way to really make it concrete, it'd be helpful.
Okay.
Mark will also when we bring Dave's goals for you to approve, I'll also put in your packet for you to approve the evaluation tool that you use. So that'll be in there too.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Okay, good. I think, unless there's any other comments, we might close this session and have a few minutes before the board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll close conclude the work session at this time and reconvene for the board meeting in I don't know, 14 minutes or something like that. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
John, I'm here.
Did that link work?
I'm here. I'm here, John.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
I think we're about there, right?
I think we're ready.
Dave, did you choose the music?
I think that's David or Enrique doing that.
Oh my.
That's all Enrique.
Yeah.
I remember going to college without music.
So, yeah, I think we're ready.
Mr. Parker, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I think we're ready to go, Enrique or Kathy. We just need to take down the screen share and Mark can get us rolling. There we go.
We're ready? Are we recording? Oh, we're live. Okay. All right.
Yep.
We're going. Okay. I'll call to order the September 28, 2020 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting at 6:32 p.m. We'll do a roll call of board members present. Mark Everett, the board chair, present. Kate Grandusky.
Present.
Brad Bafaro.
I'm here.
Valerie Ingram.
Here.
Narce Rodriguez.
I'm here.
Noe Alvarez.
Hi.
Noe Alvarez.
Here, he isn't logged on, Mark.
Okay. He may join us. Okay. Well, he may join here in a moment. Let's see here. Okay, the school board will hear public comment for unscheduled public appearance received through the designated email address on the board page on the district website to be read by district staff at the appropriate time on the agenda. You may also provide a comment if you are registered for the Zoom meeting. Would you, we'll do the flag salute next. Let's see here. Get I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Let's see. If we can do introductions of audience and staff at this time.
John O'Neill, Assistant Superintendent.
Okay.
David Warner, Communications.
Enrique Pignon, Technology.
Karen O'Neill, High School Principal.
Angela Graves, Principal of Cornelius.
Eileen Clute, Business.
Osvaldo Garcia, Principal, and Neil Armstrong.
Seth Jones, Principal of Tom McCall.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Okay. Get back to my juggling my screens here. So, okay, we'll move on to approval of tonight's agenda. Folks have had a chance to review that. I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Let's see, we'll go on to course. Well, let me just ask if Noe is available. Noe joined us.
No,
I don't see a Mark.
I don't have his phone number, Mark, so I
Okay.
can't call him. I'll touch base with him in the morning though and
Yeah.
find out what we
Okay.
can do to help.
Okay, I didn't want to overlook him. So, okay, we'll go on to, we've got correspondence and celebrations, and then calendar notes and recognition in the superintendent report. So, Mr. Parker, I'll just turn it over to you for the next portion here.
Perfect. Wanted a couple of comments tonight. First, PACE Awards recognized Forest Grove School District as a Safety Star. We are notified today by PACE. We're one of 3 districts and 2 individuals that have been recognized for the 2020 PACE Awards. The PACE Awards are a chance to thank our members for their hard work and ensure every student and every employee gets home safely every day. The Forest Grove School District was given the grand prize, the Safety Star Award, for reducing liability and accidents on school grounds through a new hazard review process. The award carries with it $5,000 from PACE to be used in school safety improvement effort. This is Eileen and her group of school safety teams have been working really hard over the last year to kind of revamp their processes. And this is a great award. I don't know, Eileen, if you want to just say a couple of things about your team. $5,000 was a big chunk of money, and it's, again, for them lowering our hazards and you know, things that we could be litigated against.
Thank you, Dave. So the safety committee this year did a really great job on just their building inspections and having maintenance and facilities present and identifying hazards within their area. We also did, in particular, a sidewalk review district-wide, and we fixed a lot of sidewalks that were tripping hazards and potentially safety. They were all safety hazards. But just with the new process and commitment on doing those inspections, SAFE and Alicia with WSC recognized that and gave the team the awards. So I wanted to, and I thanked everybody today, but I wanted to thank the entire safety committee for all of their work this last year. We have taken that $5,000 and redistributed it out to the buildings based on size. So each building will get a piece of that to be able to continue with safety improvements within their space. So we're excited for it. Thank you.
So again, great work by the safety teams. And I know, again, over the last year, they've done a lot of work to kind of revamp processes. So we're starting up our 3rd week of school. And while we are continuing to have some challenges, we're also moving forward. Wanted to start with just a couple of briefings. Tech. The tech department is continuing to see high demand for support and is pushing them to it's really pushing the tech department to their limits. They've had over 500 parent and student tickets since the start of school, over 1,600 staff tickets since 9/1. They've been able to average a response time of just under 4 hours for the parents and students and just under 3 hours for staff. They resolved most of the parent-student tickets within 28 hours on average and resolved staff tickets within 16 hours of them lodging the ticket. We're currently at about 1,000 to 1 users to devices currently in the school district. So is that, Enrique, that doesn't seem like the right number. What's that? Is that the ratio of users to tech staff?
Correct. If we were to take the total number of users' devices that we're supporting, every staff member on the tech department is supporting just over 1,000 devices each.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we're moving rapidly, one, to move some staff within the district temporarily to help out with tech. We're also looking at adding some FTE in those areas to begin to deal with just the overwhelming need that we have right there. We're still waiting on devices that we ordered over the summer for those to come in. Those are, again, back ordered, but we are seeing some deliveries of needed hotspots and the rest, and Enrique and the team are already getting those out to schools. you're going to hear from some of the principals tonight about some of the differences this year in CDL versus last year. So I'm not going to steal any of their thunder, but you'll also hear more about our current enrollment and where our class sizes sit right now from our folks. But one encouraging thing that we were seeing today is we had 4 students who are re-enrolling in the school district who are leaving the online charter schools that they left us in the summer, and now they're starting to come back, which is great news. I think our principals have put together a good program with a lot of synchronous time with teachers that should be attracting students back to our school district. And then I talked a little bit about it earlier, but I'll be reconvening the district kind of blueprint team to, we'll be expanding it, reconvening it over the next couple of weeks here so that we can really dig down and start figuring out what this transition to hybrid is going to look like, what the metrics need to be. I'll be presenting, I think, at the next board meeting data around what these metrics are, what they mean, and the rest, so that you have a better understanding of the metrics. And then hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have kind of a more formal plan of what this transition may look like. We did see the metrics kick up this week, which is we were nearing the first week of maybe being under on the metrics, and now we're not there anymore. So it'll be interesting to see. We're hearing from folks around the state that we're seeing cases go up. So this will be interesting over the next couple of weeks to see where this leads. And that's kind of what we're going on. You'll hear more about the actual individual schools and what's going on, and you'll have a chance to ask questions if you need to. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Comments or questions? We'll move on if not. Okay. Unscheduled public appearance. The board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel is not allowed at this time. Each person's comments shall be limited to 3 minutes, the total time allocated for this agenda item being 20 minutes. Are there any comments that have been received?
Yes, there's one. I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
This is from Mary Whitmore. It says, thanks for this opportunity to input ideas. I'm going for the Guinness Book of World Records for a number of times the school board has been approached to try phonics. I've noticed a lot of people are publicly admitting their early struggles with dyslexia. One in particular caught my eye. John B. Goodenough, who's 97, won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2019. He said, I have learned to be open to surprises and to not have preconceived ideas or close your mind to things that might work. He had dyslexia and struggled to read. He eventually taught himself. He steered his career toward math as a result. 2 other Nobel laureates that had dyslexia are Jacques Dubourget and Dr. Carol Greider. I direct these questions to Brad DeFaro. Number 1, how and when do you test incoming students for dyslexia? Number 2, what programs do you use to meet their needs? And number 3, do you have any data on the success of those programs? Thank you for your service, Mary Whitmore.
Okay. Thank you, David. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent items a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? And hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. I'm a yes. Narce?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Val? Val? Your mics might be off.
Sorry, I got it. Yes.
Okay. And Brad?
Yes.
Okay. So that motion passes. We have two presentations this evening. The first of which is the enrollment update, and Mr. O'Neill will share with us that information. So Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair Everett. As you know, this has been a most challenging and unique school year by far. And the enrollment report is just one of many reflections of how challenging that is. We are working very closely with building principals, secretaries, with our technology department. And I'd like to give a big shout out, kudos to Deb Thrush, who's been working with secretaries and principals and trying to get these numbers as accurate as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's okay. Yeah. Here. So I sent each board member just before, while we're in the work session, what I'm sharing now. And can you see my screen, Chair Everett?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This is our enrollment with potential 10-day drop. ODE, now Deb, feel free to correct me at any time, Deb. ODE, Oregon Department of Education, has encouraged school districts to suspend the 10-day drop during this time, just so that schools and personnel have time and energy and space to connect with our families. And so I'm gonna stop this real quick.
Yeah, John, is there any way we can see the whole sheet at once? We're just seeing like a couple schools.
I'm not able to, go ahead.
Let me try and share from mine, John, and then you can go from there. Let me see what I can do here.
Okay. So they've suspended the 10-day drop. So normally this would be the board meeting that I get up and present, and it would be clean numbers for the students that have not yet attended. So each of you have this in your email, but you can see the individual class sizes, the teachers' names, and the students. What this represents are students that have connected live with their teacher and they got online. Or asynchronously, they've accessed the lessons and turned in some work. But you can see that these are the numbers currently. And if you look down at like the high school sitting at 1896, Create has 8, Calc has 44, Transition has 20. And then Dave, if you could scroll down a little bit, there's the summary by buildings. And you can see that our smallest class right now, which is not unusual for this time of year, is our kindergarten class. We're still reaching out and connecting with kids, but those that have registered have started already. But we're still, you know, traditionally in our district, parents, particularly with their eldest child, or only child, see the buses running and okay, it's time, we need to get you enrolled. And besides our food service delivery system for parents, we don't have that complete deployment of our transportation. So schools are reaching out to those parents. Obviously they've turned in packets, but if you look at the summary all the way down at the bottom, you can see where we're at as of today. K4, we're down 145 students, 5-6, 92, 7-8, 26, and 9-12 we're up by 6 students. And again, this is a snapshot of today compared to this time last year. Now, again, that's extremely challenging because what has happened in comprehensive distance learning, teachers take roll on that day. And what we've done is set it up so that they're marked present to help expedite that roll process time that it takes with students on live with the teacher. And they go ahead and mark the students that are absent. Then if the next day, per ODE guidelines, if a student accesses that lesson the day before, that attendance can be updated. For instance, any families that are experiencing any type of economic or health crisis issues that we talked about this in prior board meetings, that access their teachers' lessons online later on in the evening, and they see the tape lessons and they turn in the work or they watch the video assignment, etc., then we can go ahead and count them as present. Deb, do you have anything to add?
Thanks, John. No, the only thing I would say is that with a 10-day drop rule, it is a little sticky in the fact that while we're able to kind of bypass that 10-day rule this year, it does still apply for the start of the year. So any student who doesn't come the first 10 days, we kind of have a little bit of wiggle room where we can modify the student start date. So say they start anytime after the 10th day, we simply need to change their enrollment to show that. What we've instructed schools to do is to not 10-day drop students until mid-October, probably about the 14th, so that we can continue to reach out to those families in hopes to kind of bring them back in and, you know, entice them with our options. And, you know, like I think Dave's pointed out, we already had 4 students just today come back from an online school. So we're kind of fearful that if we take those kids off of our rolls, that they get lost. So the goal is to leave them on until October 14th. And if at that point we have reached out and done our due diligence, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and no-show them at that time, as long as they're off our rolls before we submit first period ADM at the end of the month.
Thank you, Deb. So I'd like to just give an illustration real quick. Of the students that we have registered, Osvaldo, I'm going to ask you to share. You just shared with me some figures, for instance, today, of the students that you still have remaining. Could you give me just a 2-second summary of what this looks like?
Yeah, at Neil Armstrong Middle School, we have only 2 students missing that we have, you know, they are unaccounted for. I mean, the rest of the kids, we already know they don't have either hotspots or for whatever reason they have had other technology issues, but they have been in contact with us. We have about 10 students who we know for sure moved into other online programs, but we have not received any registration from those institutions, any records request. But after everything is said and done, I mean, we only have 2 students that we still need to reach out because we don't know where they are.
Thank you very much. And that's kind of indicative, Chair Everett and board. This is an ongoing work in progress. And to borrow Narce's phrase earlier, we're reaching out to families. Each school has attendance committee or parent outreach committee or individual staff members, depending on the small size of the elementary school, and really trying to connect with the parents and students and identify any challenges they might have with connectivity or during the day. And so are our teachers. Our teachers are doing a phenomenal job as well, reaching out and trying to connect with their students. Are there any questions?
So John, if you have a student at the middle school and they log in and they're online for about 5 minutes, they're attending school for that day?
Yes, according to the ODE guidelines, absolutely. What's really powerful though is Canvas, the suite that we purchased, the studio is an upgraded version. And for instance, if a teacher drops in a video for kids to watch, along with questions that they turn in, our system is sophisticated enough, it can identify exactly what each individual student did. Did they watch the whole video? Did they just fast forward to the questions and answer those questions? We're really trying to get as much data as possible back so that the teachers can get some information regarding the connectivity with their students.
I think there's a deeper question there, though, which is how would principals respond, or how would teachers respond when the kid logs on for a little bit and then he's not there? Maybe we can have a principal kind of talk quickly, not a lot of time here, but kind of respond to what they might do in that situation.
I can answer that. Yeah, I mean, since the middle level was referenced, yeah, what we are in communication with our staff about is that obviously we still expect teachers to be the first line of defense. So when we realize that there are students not coming to school just because they are picking only one period to attend, or they just show up, for 5 minutes and then leave and then come back. All of that is being, all that data is being collected. And then what we are asking is that teachers reach out to those families and those students first. Once that first contact is being made, by the way, obviously some of those calls need, interpretation assistance. We then take it over as the admin team. We have an attendance team, and we are using those instructional assistants, or we have the plan to use those instructional assistants who are right now, supposedly they are in the supervisory role. And because they're not really in contact with the students, we are asking them to reach out to those families and try to get a better understanding of what the situation is. And then obviously, last in line would be the administration. I mean, Juliana and myself as the principal and the assistant principal making those home visits with assistance.
We've got those systems kind of built up into each of the different schools. Val.
When would the teachers have time to do that? When is their time allotted to do that?
That's part and parcel with what our teachers do all the time. Even when they were in school in person, it's still expected. They're the ones with the relationship with the family. So we would still expect them to be the first people to reach out. If they were struggling, or if, in the past, if someone couldn't make it, they'd talk to administrators, and the administrators would then help out. But that's always an expectation, is that teachers are connecting with families.
Yeah, I get that. I just think that there is a lot of new things that they're learning and having to go through. And then I don't know exactly what all the schedules are for each building, but some schedules might not be conducive for the teachers to do that. And
Can I take this one? I just say that at least at the high school level, what we've communicated clearly to students, parents, and staff is that our expectation is that kids are participating in their classes for the entire 90-minute block, and that staff are available to kids the entire 90-minute block. We understand, though, and we are giving a lot of grace, not only to staff, but also to students, because there's panicked emails that come through that they got knocked off. Their internet is unstable and they get knocked off of their class. They're trying to get back on. We're taking everything into account that we can, not penalizing students at all. So if they get knocked off, they're communicating with their teacher via email. We're not marking that as an absence. With that said, if a kid only logs on for a few minutes and that's all you see of that kid, it's an absence.
And then you have the teachers call?
We actually, we have 2 auto dialers. So we're doing that like we've done every time. And in addition, our attendance team, we have, it's DINA students, classified staff, admin that are actually making the phone calls and doing home visits on any student that we're not able to reach, and actually have a conversation with the parents about what's going on.
I was just going to say at the elementary level, what happens is that's why one reason we have Wednesdays dedicated for teachers to do family outreach. So they have most of the day on Wednesday, other than some PD in the morning, to do family outreach. And then I know most of our schools have created family outreach teams. And so we meet twice a week and go through the list of the kids that are not connecting, and we assign somebody to connect with that family. We do home visits, like Karen said. We go and bring them a Chromebook. We problem solve their Chromebook at their house if we need to. We get them their school supplies or figure out if they moved or what's happening. So it's a team approach. It's not up to just the teacher, but the teacher has to be the first point of contact.
That applies to Neil Armstrong as well.
So I would just also say we're looking at class sizes, and we'll are we ready to do that tonight, John? As Eileen, I can't remember where we're at on this.
We do have a document that's, I'm not sure if we're ready to present or not. That's up to Eileen, but that we were taking a look at what was budgeted versus, you know, what's enrolled there. Okay, excellent.
Thank you, Don. I can go through this document and I can share it with the board also after the meeting tonight. Basically, we're looking at enrollment 2 different ways. We're looking at the enrollment based on the actual attendance, and then based on this simulation of what the 10-day drop would look like. The one that's up right now is showing the 10-day drop by building by grade level compared to budget. So you can see as where enrollment is, where we're dropped in our enrollment, or which building and grade is down in enrollment. So like Cornelia's compared to budget is 12. All of that is primarily kindergarten. Kinder is pretty consistent where we're dropped in enrollment in most of the elementaries, not all of the elementaries. But you can see what the average class size is. So Cornelia's is 22.5. Dilly is 22.7. Echo Shaw is an average of 25.5. They have some low, some high for their 5th and 6th grade. Harvey Clark is 22.6 on average with their kindergartners at 17 average. And then Joseph Gale is in the same range with their kinders also low. Again, these are all primarily because of that drop in kinder enrollment as compared to what we had projected. Fernhill down 26 as compared to what we budgeted. And then overall K4, we are, oh, I don't have that that number there. It's down farther if you will get there. Tom McCall overall is down 61 students as compared to budget. NAMS 25 compared to budget. And then the high school in Calc is doing really great. They gained more 12th graders than what we had anticipated. So they're overall in line with the budget. If you go, Dave, if you go to the trend data tab, it's a new tab. Basically wanted to look at what we budgeted by building by enrollment, and then compare it to the actual attendance from today and the 10-day drop. So you can see what that percentage of attendance is compared to the simulation of the 10-day drop. Cornelia's overall is 94.8% attendance today. And then Dilly 96. So we can see kind of what that average is through the buildings for who actually participated. If you go all the way to the bottom, this is the total by grade. So you can see where those drops have been. Kindergartners overall were down 72 in our budget. First grade's down 29, second 21, third 21. The big hit overall is K4 combined is 140 students down compared to budget. Yeah. So this is just another way that we're looking at our enrollment, the 10-day drop versus the attendance and where we are compared to budget. So we can plan.
Eileen, did you say you're going to share that with us?
I will share this document with you tonight.
Thank you.
Eileen, what about pre-kinder? Is that not included in here?
No, we typically don't include pre-K in our enrollment reports because they're all grant funded, and there's caps. So it's different. So normally we don't include our pre-Ks.
Eileen, what's the simulation of the 10-day drop? Can you say that again? What that means?
So that's exactly what John and Deb were talking about. Is since we aren't doing the 10-day drop right now, that's what we're projecting the 10-day drop is based on who's shown up and who we've made contact with. So it's not actually what's in the system, but it's kind of a rough projection of today's view.
I wonder if it's possible, Eileen, to get an update on this, maybe give it a 3-week kind of window and then see it again, if the numbers have changed at all. Just so I'm hoping that the numbers are going to go up, but you never know. But it would be nice to see it in 2 or 3 weeks.
Right. Deb and I, that's a great question, Brad. We were just talking about it this afternoon. And so we were talking about the October 1st, if we did the attendance and the simulation of the 10-day drop, and then do it again in the mid-October when we actually do the 10-day drop. So we have a couple of benchmarks.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. John?
Thank you. And thanks to the principals, and again, to Deb and Eileen. They've been doing a great job. It's pretty slippery in terms of getting a good handle on it. It's not the traditional butts in the seat, so to speak.
Okay, the next, let me get to it here. No, I think the next item is the, well, it's a presentation. It's through you, John, again, on differences between last year and this year. So I'll just hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. We have a very brief presentation here this evening. Okay, that's strange. Oh, it started off already. Present. So these are the changes that have been made for the 2021 school year in comparison to prior years. Again, this is a work in progress. As the board knows, ODE guidance continues to change. Every 2 weeks, they come out with new guidance. Also, as our teachers, principals, counselors, and district office get more and more experience in comprehensive distance learning, we're going to go ahead and monitor and adjust as need be to better meet the needs of our students and teachers and staff and parents. We're going to provide presentations from 4 levels of our school district. These levels include elementary PK4, upper elementary grades 5-6, middle school 7-8, and the high school 9-12. 4 principals will provide a 5-minute overview answering these questions. First, what would students have received in a normal school year? And second, what are students going to receive this year in CDL primarily / hybrid? And then we'll have time for board questions at the end of the presentation, but if there's any burning questions, feel free to chime in as well. So just a contextual overview of unprecedented times. In 2019-20 school year, we started in person. It was a normal school year. Then COVID-19 worldwide pandemic hit and the schools closed, and we ushered in an era of supplemental learning, which was packet-based learning. And then we transitioned to distance learning where no assignments or tests could be given No attendance really was taken by traditional forms, and grades were limited to pass, no pass. For this school year, it's a much greater lift for our teachers and staff and our students and parents. ODE issued reopening blueprints and guidelines and requirements. Like I said, they continue to change every 2 weeks, and they continue to issue that. Comprehensive distance learning. We started out the year in comprehensive distance learning due to the pandemic, and we are monitoring the county and state COVID case matrices to determine when hybrid is an option. And hybrid, we've planned for that, as well as comprehensive distance learning with our ODE reopening blueprints. And hybrid, we've identified cohorting of students and staff when and if we transition to that this year. Synchronous learning is live instruction. That means the students online with their teacher and they're having discussions, posing questions, answering questions, small group instruction, breakout, share out, etc. Asynchronous learning, students can access taped instruction if they miss that day's live lesson, or they can go ahead and access other curricular content material that teachers push out to their Canvas classroom. Daily attendance is required, and assignments, tests, and grades are given. Tonight's presenters are Angela Graves, principal at Cornelius Elementary, Mr. Seth Jones, principal at Tom McCall Upper Elementary, Mr. Osvaldo Garcia Contreras, principal at Neil Armstrong Middle School, and Karen O'Neill, principal at Forest Grove High School. So let me get back to why did that go there? So Angela Graves, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So last year, up until March 12th, what a normal school year looked like was live and in-person instruction. And then on March 12th, it was March 12th was our last day with students. March 13th, we realized Friday the 13th, I'm wondering if that was a coincidence now, that would no longer be the case. And we had to switch 150 years of instruction overnight. And so we did the best we could, like John just talked about. But this year we've had all summer to plan. And so we actually have what we think is a much more robust interactive format for the students to do online. So last year, while we would have had live in-person instruction, this year we also have live instruction. It's just not in person. It's via a Zoom call, just like this one. And then we record that instruction so that students who can't catch it live can see it in their own time. And it's all online this year via Zoom and Canvas. Last year and all the other years, teachers would have a turn-in basket on their desk or somewhere in the room, and kids would turn in their assignments. Now kids turn in their assignments in their Canvas classroom. So last year, kids would come to the carpet for direct instruction, or for the older grades, they sit at their desks for direct instruction. This year, what that looks like is hanging out in a Zoom room, the main Zoom room, kind of like we're in right now. And that's where they get their direct instruction from their teacher. In previous years, we would do small group rotations. Some teachers call them centers or rotations. Small group differentiated instruction is what it is. We still do that this year. We just do them in Zoom breakout rooms. The teacher divides up the students by level or by interest or by assignment and puts them in breakout rooms. Last year and previous years, kids would eat breakfast and lunch in the cafeteria. And now we have grab and go meals at every school site, as well as at some neighborhoods around our attendance areas. And when we get to the hybrid model, the kids will eat their breakfast and lunch in their classrooms. And there will also be grab and go meals. And last year and previous years, we had music and PE twice a week, live and in person. And this year, what we'll be doing, whether we're doing the hybrid model or CDL, is we'll have one time a week of live instruction for PE and music and one recorded lesson for PE and music. Last year, kids got to bring their school supplies to school. This year, schools provided school supplies for families as needed, because we know not everybody is at a point in their lives where they can be providing what the students need in their homes. Last year we had devices, one-to-one devices for every student at the schools, and those devices stayed at school so we could protect them and make sure they would have them the next day to learn. And this year we have those one-to-one devices and they are staying home with the students because the students need them to learn. When we go back to the hybrid model, the students will need to bring their devices with them to school because they will still be doing work online. Last year we had literacy, math, social studies and science, and ELD every day. And this year we also have literacy, math, social science, and science and ELD every day.
Excellent. Thank you, Principal Graves. Next,
Angela,
oh, go ahead.
About how many hours of synchronous time do we currently have kind of built into the elementary schedule?
Yes, that's a good question. Literacy is about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on language. At the schools that only do English instruction, it's 90 minutes. At schools that are dual language schools, we do an hour of English literacy and an hour of Spanish literacy a day. Math is an hour, social studies and science is 30 minutes, ELD is 30 minutes. And so it just depends on, which classes you take.
Thank you.
Angela, can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
When you just talked about the literacy and the other content areas, how does that compare to the previous year? Is that the same as what they would have had last year?
Yes, it's very, the literacy, math, and ELD is exactly the same. Social studies and science is usually between 45 minutes and an hour.
Okay.
And so we're only requiring 30 minutes of direct instruction per content area, but then the teachers stay on for an additional 30 to 60 minutes live with the students.
Okay.
But that's where that small group rotation, the Zoom breakout rooms come into play. So every subject is 30 minutes of live direct instruction at grade level for each subject.
Okay.
And then the teachers stay on and do an additional 30 to 60 minutes of live instruction that is not recorded. We don't record the small group instruction, one for privacy and for FALA, but also it's differentiated for each student. So not every student needs every breakout room.
Okay. And then what are the hours this year as compared to last year? Are they
the bell hour, the school hours?
The school day, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same start time and end time, but there are a few breaks during the day. Like at my school at Cornelius, this year our start time is 9:15 and we're ending at 3:30, which is off by about 15 minutes because when we come back to the hybrid model, we're going to need to change the busing a little bit. And so we wanted to be prepared for that. But so all of my students start at 9:15, other than kinder and pre-K. They start a little bit later because we know the kinders and the pre-Ks can't take as much screen time or as much academics as the bigger kids can. So they start about 10, but everybody else starts at 9:15. And then all the kids go till 3:30, but like I said, they'll have like a 45-minute or an hour lunch break. They'll have 15 minutes in between classes. There's some breaks throughout the day. So they're not like on for 5.5 hours online, but they do spend, like students at my school are on between 2.5 and 4.5 hours online a day doing online instruction.
Okay. And then just one last question. Can you maybe give a report on how the staff are feeling about the use of Canvas? Because I've heard that it's really, and I can imagine with elementary students, that's really, really tough. So can you
from the parent and student perspective, which I have because my daughter's a second grader at Cornelius, I'll say from a parent and student perspective, it's super easy. It's literally a click of the button. I will say from the teacher perspective, it is not super easy.
Okay.
We were really lucky that our district did it this way. They had 3 to 4 expert teachers chosen from every building. And those teachers went through about 40 hours of Canvas training and Canvas creation, let's say, this summer that they were paid for, and they are quote unquote Canvas experts. They will tell you they're not Canvas experts, but there are experts and there are go-to people in each building. And we would not be where we are today without those people, because they created all of these templates for all the other teachers to use. And they're the go-to person in the building when somebody has a Canvas question. But I will tell you, Canvas is definitely the hardest part for teachers. And like, for example, in my building on Wednesday, we are going to do our PD Wednesday is all going to be around Canvas, even though they've already had like 3 days of Canvas instruction and lots of time to play with it. It's complicated. And we just want everybody to feel like they're an expert too. So we did a quick little survey. What is your biggest struggle with Canvas? And then we're going to have people just concentrate on that on this Wednesday.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Angela, I have a question. The Zoom breakout rooms, how does the teacher monitor what's happening in each of the group?
Yes, I don't allow any of my teachers to have Zoom breakout rooms without an adult in each room, because it would be like having kids in a classroom without an adult in the classroom. So I have assigned, and I think all the principals have assigned an instructional assistant to every classroom. And so therefore it's the instructional assistants in there and the teacher, so they can divide the kids up, plus all of the specialist ELD, reading specialists, special ed teachers, they all push into that intervention block too. So the first half an hour of every subject is direct grade level instruction. And the second half an hour is that differentiated small group instruction. So you might have 4 adults pushing into breakout rooms, and then the teacher has divided the kids into those breakout rooms, working on a specific skill with a specific adult who knows what they're doing.
And that's true at the elementary level as much as possible. We obviously don't necessarily have an adult in every room at the secondary level.
Right.
I'm going to try and keep us moving here. Maybe we can have the questions at the end. I just want to make sure the other principals have an opportunity just to lay out the same, and then we'll come back. And I'm sure there's lots of great questions here, but why don't we keep it moving with Seth talking about upper elementary?
Great, thanks. Yeah, we have a lot of similarities to Cornelius and the other K-4 schools. But overall, when we really look big picture at what's happening at Tom McCall, there's a lot more that's similar this year than is different from last year. So all of our instruction is live. I get confused with synchronous and asynchronous. So we are just straight live instruction. Our school day is different this year. So instead of being from 8 to 2:15, we are 7:45 to 2 o'clock. And that's because of busing. It's not having a huge impact now, but back at, during hybrid, our buses would arrive around 7:15. So that would be a difference for us. We still have 26 classroom teachers. 13 of those teachers teach literature and social studies. The other 13 teach math and science. The same exact plan as we had last year. Our specials are very similar, just some small differences. So instead of PE once weekly for 45 minutes, there's PE twice weekly for 30 minutes. Music, instead of once weekly for 45, is once weekly for 30 minutes. And counseling, instead of once every other week for 45 minutes, we have counseling weekly for 30 minutes. There's a little bit of a confusion here, but so we still have 90 minutes of daily live math instruction and 90 minutes of daily live literacy instruction. And our intervention is the same, about 30 minutes a day for ELD, title, and special education, as well as we continue to have accelerated math. The only difference there is last year we would have accelerated for 3 different levels for 5th grade, accelerated 6th grade, and accelerated 7th grade. All of our 5th graders from last year that are still in accelerated math, they're all in accelerated 7th. And then we also have sections of accelerated 5th. So overall, there aren't huge differences other than the format that we're in virtual classrooms instead of live at Tom McCall. Thanks.
Thank you, Seth. And next for the middle school, we have Mr. Garcia Contreras.
Yeah, good evening. Similar to what Tom McCall and the elementary level presented, we have a comparison here, but a lot of things are similar. Last year, our schedule for students began at 7:45 a.m. and ended at 2:26 p.m. This year during CDL, our students begin classes at 8 a.m. and they end classes at 3:30 p.m. It appears to be longer, but there is this block in the middle in which students and staff members have their lunch. They also have common prep, and there is also some time budgeted for announcements. We did it that way just to make sure that we allowed students to have enough time to go to the food distribution centers and be able to pick up their lunches. When we come back into hybrid, our schedule is gonna run from 7:30 a.m. All the way to 1:15 p.m., which it represents an early release, and all teachers are gonna have a common prep at the end of the day, and that will minimize the challenge of having to provide lunch on site. So students will grab their lunches and go home. Last year, we had live in-person instruction. The classroom was the learning platform, and Schoology and Google Classroom were the learning management systems. This year, we have synchronous and asynchronous online instruction. Zoom becomes the learning platform, and Canvas, the learning management system. Last year, we had a 7-period day for students. This year, we transferred or transitioned into a 5-period day for students. Last year, we had a small group rotations within the classrooms as the differentiation was taking place. Well, the same way it was stated earlier, this year we have Zoom breakout rooms for that. Last year, all classes were year-long classes. This year, all classes are semester-long classes, with the exception of math and language arts, which remain to be our stronger focus. And I decided to make sure that these classes remained all year long. Last year, the students rotated from, from class to class. This year, when we come back into hybrid, teachers will rotate from class to class to minimize the transitions and the student contact in the hallways. This year, the average class size was between 24 and 36. This year is going to be between 13 and 15 due to cohorting. Last year, we have 43 classroom teachers, and we enabled, due to the 7-period day, a significant number of elective choices. This year, we have 44 classroom teachers. Some of the teachers needed to be reassigned to teach other subjects than they would normally teach, and the number of elective choices due to cohorting and due to the 5-period day was reduced significantly.
Well, thank you very much, Osvaldo.
So one thing I think we need to touch base on before we move off of that one is with the 7-period day, to stay under the state's number of minimum contacts, he couldn't do a 7-period day schedule and still keep the number of contacts low enough, which is why they needed to move away from the 7-period day to the 5-period day, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to make it work. The high school with their AB schedule and now their 4x4 schedule, there's 4 classes. So there's basically 4 cohorts plus a transportation. So that's the reason why this changed from the 7-period day to the 5-period day. Just want to make sure board understood why that was necessary.
Excellent, thanks, Dave.
There are other reasons too, but I can answer that later at the end.
All right, the high school, Karen.
All right, so in a typical school year, we obviously have a 4x4, so students rotate 4 blocks every other day. 18 weeks, and so basically 4 credits per semester. This year, like Dave mentioned, because of cohorts and honestly, just so kids could manage and balance classes given all of the changes. 4 classes made a lot more sense. So we do 9-week quarters in CDL and hybrid. And so they will get, again, 8 credits every year, but their first 2 quarters will be a year-long class. In a normal school year, obviously we have a very robust and comprehensive options or credit options for kids. So dual credit, AP, college level classes. This year in CDL, we will still have those dual credit, AP, and college level classes. Some of our upper level CTE classes will be hybrid dependent. And so what we've done is we've front loaded a lot of the entry level CTE classes into Q1 and 2 in the hopes that we would be in a hybrid situation in quarters 3 and 4. So our goal is that we will still be able to offer everything. We were just very strategic about what quarters they ended up in. In a normal school year, we have a focus on partner, small group, student engagement, student voice, organizational strategies with AVID and Wicker. Classes are 90 minutes. This year, same thing, classes are 90 minutes. The Zoom allows us, like you heard earlier, allows teachers to put kids into partners, to put them into strategic groups, even put them into individual breakout rooms if they want to talk to individual kids and give them some very specific feedback. Hands-on activities will be provided whenever possible. So we had a distribution day and students that were in anatomy picked up, their mannequins and their clay and all that. So we are trying to keep some of that hands-on whenever we can. In a normal school year, obviously there's a ton of extracurricular activities, in-person athletics, clubs, competitions, band, choir, orchestra, FFA, etc. This year, obviously everything's shortened, and everything's virtual. So virtual clubs and extracurricular activities. We do have some limited in-person, and that's mainly athletics, where we have our fall and spring sports happening. It is basically 1 coach to 10 kids. And currently we have 370 kids participating in that. And that goes till the end of October. Our other in-person is our Viking House. And again, ODE has some very specific things that we have to meet in order to do that. So no more than 10 people. In a normal school year, 18 weeks is a semester and 36 weeks is a year long. Right now, like I mentioned earlier, 2 9-week quarters equals a year. So some of our kids will be done with their year-long classes at our typical semester stopping point. Culminating senior project to include research, mentorship, demonstration, and speech. This obviously got put on hold last year as well because of social distancing. We could not ask kids to go and meet with mentors to complete their projects. And so we are facing the same thing this year. In addition, with a year-long classes being Q1 and 2 and Q3 and 4, it poses another challenge. The other is service opportunities. We've done an amazing job providing service opportunities through a number of our clubs. And it's a requirement for our honors diploma. But you can see there, ASB, Key Club, Interact Club, and NHS are all clubs that require service hours. Again, we can't really ask kids to do service hours with social distancing and the ODE and OHA requirements. Normal school year, a phone dialer for absences, actually twice a day is what we typically do. Right now, we've got that on steroids basically. So we've got a dialer for daily absences 2 times a day, and then we are making personal phone calls as our attendance team for students who are not engaging. They have missed a class, missed 2 classes, and we are monitoring that every single day. The conversations are with the parents, and if we can't reach the parents, we do a home visit. And it's really finding out what we need to do to support them. Some of it's training on Canvas, some of it's getting hotspots. They're pretty good. Most everybody has Chromebooks now. So it's really just getting a sense for what they need and how we can support them.
All right, thank you. So as you see, this is a work in progress, and ODE guidance continues to change every 2 weeks. And again, we're gaining experience in CDL. And as Dave mentioned, we're reconvening a district-wide hybrid committee for helping plan the successful transition to go to hybrid whenever that is deemed appropriate. But we are monitoring and adjusting just like our teachers are doing. So that concludes our presentation. Is there any questions from the board?
I have some questions and comments. First off, I wanted to say, Oz, I think it's great you figured out how you could get math and language arts to be year-round classes. I think that's really going to be beneficial for our students. Good job. The other question I have on all of your guys' plans is, where do you see like office hours fitting in?
I can answer that. For Neil Armstrong, the office hours are located on Wednesday, intentionally on Wednesday, early in the day and at the end of the day, so that teachers could balance out their schedules and they could go ahead and reach out to the students intentionally. Now, there are also, remember that we have a very extended lunch block in the middle. That lunch block includes a common prep that we don't want to touch. But in addition to that, it has the 30-minute lunch, and it has another extra 30 minutes of student contact time. So we provide every day those 30 minutes opportunities for teachers to reach out to students if they need to. But in addition to that, we have Wednesday, early in the morning and at the very end, as intentionally moments for that kind of interaction. Now, throughout the day, obviously there are house meetings, department meetings, PD, and sometimes we do not have PD, and that block of time can also be used for the student contact time.
Great, thanks.
I would say
Karen, what does it look like at the high school?
So we are very similar. A lot of our office hours are in 2-hour chunks of time on Wednesdays. Again, one late morning and then one in the afternoon. I'll say that a lot of students have been utilizing, there's not a lot of time in between classes. So they'll either utilize, if they've got second block and then we break for lunch, they'll utilize that time to stay and ask for help, or they'll utilize the time at the end of the day between 3:11 and 3:45. But Wednesdays are a lot of, we're in PLC meetings and a lot of the teachers will break out and say, hey, I've got a student. And so they'll go and meet with the student, offer help, come back to the PLC meeting. So really flexible. It's been working really well.
That's great. So that's kind of, you let your teachers know that's the priority on a Wednesday, like even if you are in professional development or a house meeting or whatever, that they can leave to go help students if needed.
Absolutely. It's happened numerous times already. Absolutely.
Cool, thanks.
So at the elementary level, it's very similar. Who was using our office hours last spring the most were our students, not the parents. And that's kind of taken care of with this live instruction. That's what the kids weren't getting last spring, was a way to communicate in real time with their teachers when they had a question about how to do an assignment or how to multiply fractions or whatever it might be. And so they get that live Q&A time every single day for 2.5 to 4.5 hours. In addition to that, when parents have questions or when kids have individual, like they need additional support that they're not getting during the classroom time or during that small group instruction time, they do have Wednesdays. And the majority of the day of Wednesday, that is the focus, is family connections and reaching out to those families that you haven't been able to reach out to, where the kid showed up for a few days and you haven't seen them since. What's happening? Is it a connectivity issue? Is there something else happening? So, but then my expectation is that teachers respond to parents within 24 hours, just like we do, right? You know, we've always done. You respond to a phone call or an email within 24 hours. Now, all of our teachers are responding a lot faster than that because the parents like, I can't get my kid on. I need to know your code. And so they're responding within like 24 seconds, not 24 hours, but that's still the expectation.
I would say that Angela brings up a really good point, and that is by the expectation being that it is live for the entire 90-minute block. With the small group and the breakout rooms, kids are able to get a lot of the support that they need during that 90-minute block. So we do not expect a teacher to talk for 90 minutes. I'd be appalled if most of them did, right?
Yeah.
So they do intentional grouping, and a lot of the kids are able to get the support they need during that 90 minutes.
That's great. Yeah, Angela, I was impressed that that you figured out a way to still do the breakout rooms, because I was wondering the same thing. I mean, you can't really just send 5 kids together and not have them supervised.
Right.
So kudos for you figuring out how to get that done.
The other thing we're going to try to do next is figure out how to train parents, because we have a lot of parents that still want to be involved in the classroom. They still want to volunteer. We have lots of people that want to volunteer in our schools, and we don't want to turn them away, but obviously there's no kids here to come help with. And even when we do have kids and we're in the hybrid model, we won't be able to allow volunteers in the building. So what we're going to try to do next is train parents and volunteers in how to supervise breakout rooms and have them join the classroom and then supervise the breakout room. So then I don't have to have a staff member in each breakout room. I can have parents running a breakout room, and also having parents run like some social recesses and that sort of thing, because the kids need that social time still. So that's kind of the next step of where we're going.
That's a great idea.
I have a question for Oz. So Oz, on your presentation at the bottom, you said that teacher reassignments were needed. And maybe you could speak to what that is.
Yeah, obviously, first of all, we did a lot of research of what it would look like, feel like for a teenager to take 7 classes online. And the research was clear. Nationwide, the average is 4.5 hours to 5 hours. That's what is permissible, what they can handle. I mean, 7 classes online the entire semester was going to be super taxing on kids. So keeping that in mind, keeping the focus on the students, then we started designing, okay, now what do we do? As we made the schedule all year long for math and all year long for language arts and only semester long for other subjects, then we had an excess of teaching in some subjects and then a deficient on teaching staff in others. Like now we needed more PE teachers, we needed more health teachers, we needed more math teachers, we needed more language art teachers. And then we didn't need as many science teachers or as many social science teachers. So in order to utilize the level of skills and expertise within the school, now we have science teachers who are teaching science and maybe 1 extra period of PE. Or we have social science teachers who are teaching 1 extra period of language arts. So that's what we mean by reassignment.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from other board members?
I'm wondering how referrals for special ed are being conducted and how are students being evaluated? And I know it's early in the school year.
So Kim had another appointment, so she's not here tonight. So I'll do my best to kind of explain it. We're going to, in the spring, we basically had no assessments going on. Currently, what we're going to do is kind of staff up an assessment center in the district office, and then they'll start doing those assessments in the district office, and they'll also be doing them, the ones that they can do via Zoom, they'll do that, but they'll be kind of staffing up their the district psychiatrists and the other folks who do those assessments, and they'll be taking care of those in the district office.
Last question is, are the families getting the meals? Are the families, I wondered if we're having, if the families are getting the food they need.
Maybe Eileen, are you still on? I
Yes,
could do it, but I think she'll be a lot more accurate.
I can take that one, Dave, if you'd like.
Yep.
So for food service, we have 3 sites open as walk-up sites. And then we also have bus routes across the district that do bus stops. So on our webpage, there's under nutrition service, you can go up to a Google map and it shows you the times and locations across the district on where those stops are. It started with the stops that we had this spring, and then we kind of expanded on it and added additional stops. Right now we're serving 5 days a week, regardless if we have school. And then we are serving 3 meals a day. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner in one package for all students.
So Eileen, are people utilizing that, or is there food going to waste?
So far, we don't have a significant waste of food, but we do have, the first week was slow. It has started picking up, so we are starting to see more and more kids attend, but that's typical with anything that's new. So we're hoping to keep the advertisement out there and keep growing that participation.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? If not, okay, thank you to the 4 principals and John who presented this evening. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
The next item, we've got a couple of action items. The first one is a budget committee vacancies interview committee, and I'll present this one. So it's, if you recall, at the December 14th, 2020 board meeting, the board discussed the process for filling the budget committee vacancies. And last year, I think Brad and I sat on this to interview those interested in serving on the budget committee before we made the appointments. And this year, it looks like the timeline is December 7th to the 11th. And we're looking for 2 board members to sit on the interview committee this year for budget committee members. So I don't know, I'll just open it up. Are there those, for Brad and I think last year I can't remember, we might have had 4 or 5 interviews of about, I think they were about 30 minutes or so. And we had, I think maybe Brad and I had either developed or with the help of Eileen, had some, questions that we would ask each candidate. So, so that's sort of how it went last year. Are there any, are there board members who would be interested in serving on the interview committee?
I'd be willing to serve. And also, I reached out to Deb and Melinda, and they said they'd be happy to serve again also.
Okay.
Mark, this is Narcia. I'm not interested in participating.
Okay.
But I have been in communication with Kathy because there's several community members that have been asking me about it, and
oh, great.
It'd be really nice to bring some diversity.
Yeah. Okay. Super.
I can do it, Mark.
Okay. So that's great. So then Val and Kate, we'll just, unless, yeah, I think we'll just have you guys serve on that, and that'll be great.
Mark, since it's an action item, can we just have a motion and have them approve it?
Okay, yeah. So I'll move that we approve Kate and Val to serve on the interview committee for the budget committee vacancies this year.
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. So I'm a yes. Brad,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Val,
Yes.
and Narse.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. The second one is the Board Financial Oversight Committee. And I'll read this and then maybe ask either Kate or Brad to speak to it a little bit. But as we did last year, we would like 2 board members to serve on the Board Financial Oversight Committee for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. This committee will meet 3 to 4 times a year from November 20th to May of 2021. And the committee's roles, timelines are attached. So I don't know if Brad and Kate, if you have anything to add to that, what we see here on the roles and responsibilities.
No, I thought it went well, and I think it's a good service. I think we should continue with it. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I agree. And I just had a question for Eileen. You know, we sat down and reviewed, I think, 4 other school districts. And is that going to be part of the continued process like what we did last year?
Thank you, Kate. That's a good question. This year, we probably won't do the whole process that we did this last year because we do have a new budget document. But I do anticipate us sitting down with the new budget document and kind of looking at what are the things that we like in it. What, you know, are there any additional modifications you would like to see going forward since it was the first year of a new document, just to continually improve it.
Thank you. I don't want to volunteer to another committee, but I would be happy to serve unless 2 other people want to do it to continue the continuity.
I'd be happy to serve again unless there's somebody else that wants to serve.
Well, I have an interest, so I'd be interested in serving on this one if you or Kate, you know.
I can bow out, Mark. You go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, and Brad, if you don't want to do it, I'll do it. But if you want to do it, I'm cool with that too.
I'm okay either way, Val. If you want to do it, I'm fine.
I already said that.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay. All right.
Okay, great.
All right, I'll make a motion then. So I move that we appoint Brad and Mark to the, this is the Board Financial Oversight Committee for 2020-2021.
I second it.
Okay, so roll call vote. I'm a yes. Kate?
I'm a yes.
Val?
Yes.
Narse?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. All right. I think with that, we're down to our future action items and some discussion. So I think there's just one item. Yeah. So this is the property purchase update, and this is from Eileen.
Thank you, Board Chair. Tonight we have the property purchase update for future action. Hope to bring this to you on the October 12th board meeting. We discussed in August in the work session about purchasing 10 acres north of David Hill, north of the high school for a future property for a future school site to support growth in our district. And right now I just wanted to update you guys on where we were with it. We are working on finalizing the contract and the resolutions. We're working with Venture Properties and Miller Nash on the contract itself. And then we're also working with Mercier Shannon for the loan resolution and the board resolution for next week. So we're still working with everybody. It's been kind of a challenge on trying to get everything all aligned and making sure that we're all on the same page, but we're getting there and we're close to having a final contract and a resolution done. So we will have that for you with the next board meeting.
Eileen, I have a question. Is the city going to purchase the some land also, or are they bowed out?
Dave and I actually have a meeting later this week with a couple of representatives from the city to talk further about this.
You know, again, I'm repeating myself, but I would love to see if they're not going to buy the land, that we add the additional acreage, because I'd like to see Calc closer to the high school so they could access some of the electives. I think it would be, I just think it would be a better location, a better place for them, and a better opportunity facility for them.
Agreed. Also for your guys's information, we are working with Malum to look at the 10 acres and how it sits in relation to the city site and the adjoining roads to see if it is possible to do both sites on the same property, or, you know, do we need that one extra acre? You know, what does that kind of look like? And if we do put them on the same site, are we giving up something? Are we overlapping parking lots? So what would it take to make it happen? And so we should have more information probably next week, if not early the following week, on kind of their mock-up, just quick design. So
I would like to add something. Is the back of that property borders on Lyle's land, and he is donating between 25 and 50 acres for an educational center. It would be nice if we butted up our property against that, because it would aesthetically be a beautiful view for the children, and also it's going to be an educational center. So I'd like, and Dave went to a conference on Saturday there. I'd like us to take that into consideration too.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Eileen.
Thank you.
Future board items and board discussions. So this is a chance for board members to provide input for future board items, or discuss anything else that needs to be, they'd like to discuss at this time. Okay. All right, hearing none, we will, let's see, we'll adjourn the school board meeting at 7:58 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks everybody.
Good evening.